Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a massive stack of research, filter out all the cosmic noise, and pull out the absolute weirdest, most compelling stories the universe has to offer.
Today we're leaving the safety of Earth's atmosphere. We're going into territory that's usually, reserved for science fiction.
And we're not talking about some blurry light captured on a shaky cell phone camera.
No, not at all. We are talking about high strangeness, reported directly by some of the most highly trained observers humanity has ever produced, astronauts and cosmonauts.
Yeah, we're going deep into the personal, the physiological, and just the flat out baffling. I mean, imagine this for a second.
Okay.
You're out there, beyond the protective bubble of Earth's magnetosphere. You're trying to sleep. You close your eyes, and you still see streaks of white light zipping across your vision.
Every few minutes.
Every few minutes. And that is happening inside your own eyeball. It's
Yeah.
it's verifiable physics, which is the craziest part.
And if your brain isn't already fried by that, consider the paradox of sound in space. Our readings surfaced this account from a Chinese astronaut who, in the profound vacuum where sound just can't travel,
Right.
he heard a distinct metallic knocking sound coming from his ship.
No.
And here's the kicker. After he came forward, it turns out nearly 80% of global astronauts have reported hearing the exact same thing.
That is just heavy. But we're saving, I think, the wildest claim for later.
Oh, definitely.
We're going to unpack this really complex speculative narrative that suggests some alleged extraterrestrials visiting us today are not aliens in the, traditional sense.
Right, not little green men.
No, they're supposedly the time-displaced descendants of future humans who launched on this catastrophic mission toward Alpha Centauri. It's a whole story involving CERN, time travel, and a pretty desperate plea to change our destiny.
So yeah, we've got a mountain of reports to get through, from the verifiable sensory shock of deep space to stunning planetary illusions, and the cutting-edge use of AI to scan the moon for ancient anomalous bases.
This deep dive is really about the raw, fascinating, and, let's be honest, often inexplicable accounts from the ultimate front line of exploration.
Exactly.
And a word on context here. I mean, when you have testimony from elite, highly trained observers, people who spent their entire careers perfecting the art of observation, it just demands a different level of respect.
It really does. They were chosen for their stability, their training, their skills. But we also have to remember, they're still human. They're subject to extreme psychological and physical stress.
And the truth, I think, often lives right in the tension between those two facts.
That's a perfect way to put it. We're balancing those raw, first-hand accounts against the hard sciences trying to understand or debunk or, in some cases, even verify these anomalies. So we'll present the claims and the science just as it was documented in our research and let you decide what stands out.
Okay, let's get into this. This stack of stories is just incredible.
Where do we even start?
So let's start with the stuff that literally messes with your senses. The phenomena that are scientifically confirmed but sound like they're pulled straight out of a cosmic horror novel.
I know exactly where you're going. The Apollo Light Show.
The Apollo Light Show.
This is one of the coolest but also most terrifying facts about deep space travel. It's an internal sensory event. Scientists call it cosmic ray phosphenes.
Phosphenes. Right.
And the Apollo astronauts, specifically when they were venturing beyond Earth's magnetic field, that vital shield that protects us all the time, they consistently reported seeing these flashes, streaks of white light.
And the key detail, the part that absolutely fries your perception, is that they saw them even when their eyes were closed.
Yeah. You're trying to get some sleep in your bunk, you're on this long coast to the moon, and bam!
Yeah.
Every 2 or 3 minutes, a streak of light just flashes across your vision.
Our reading points out that even decades ago, like back in 1973, researchers were pretty confident the culprit was high-energy, heavy cosmic particles, the HZE particles.
Right. They're just bombarding the spacecraft and specifically the astronauts' eyeballs.
And the origin of these particles is just stunning.
It is. They're basically atomic nuclei moving at relativistic speeds, like almost the speed of light. They often come from way outside our solar system.
From, supernovas?
Maybe, yeah. Ancient remnants from distant supernovas.
Yeah.
They carry an immense amount of energy. So with each one of those little flashes, the astronaut is momentarily interacting with a fantastically ancient, high-velocity piece of the universe.
That's a wild thought. It's a physical manifestation of deep space energy hitting the most delicate part of your body.
And the mechanism.
Yeah.
That's one of the greatest bits of medical and physics speculation. There are several really strong theories, which is what makes it so interesting.
So what's the leading one?
Okay, so one prominent theory suggests that these high-energy particles create a miniature, localized light shock wave as they pass through the vitreous humor.
The jelly stuff in your eye.
The clear, jelly-like substance that fills the eyeball, yeah.
So a shockwave of light, what does that even mean?
It's a phenomenon called Cherenkov radiation. Think of it this way. The speed of light in a vacuum is the absolute speed limit,
Apparently
right?
it can't go faster.
But light slows down when it moves through a denser medium, like water or the jelly in your eye. If an HCD particle comes screaming into your eye and moves faster than the local speed of light in that jelly, it creates a cone of bluish light.
So it's like a tiny sonic boom, but with light, inside your own head.
That is the perfect analogy. It's a microscopic light boon happening right inside your skull.
That is such a mind-bending comparison. A sonic boom, but made of light, triggered by ancient interstellar trash zipping through your jelly-filled eyeball. I love that.
But that's only one theory. Another idea is that the particles don't create light directly, but they interact directly with the sensitive parts of the optic nerve, stimulating the visual signal itself.
So it's not real light, it's just your nerve telling your brain it's seeing light.
Exactly. And then there's a more radical and frankly weirder theory that the particles penetrate deeply enough to activate the visual centers of the brain itself.
Whoa.
Yeah, essentially short-circuiting your perception into seeing light. The fact that after 50 years, the exact mechanism is still a mystery. Is it the eye, the nerve, or the brain? Is just humbling.
So what does this all mean for the future? I mean, a 1973 report said it wasn't a serious hazard for short trips like Apollo, but we're planning to send people to Mars.
And that's a mission lasting, what, potentially 3 years?
Exactly. And our research shows in a 2006 survey, 80% of NASA and ESA astronauts still reported experiencing these flashes.
The health implications suddenly become very serious. If this amount of deep space radiation is actively causing visible sensory disturbances, what silent damage is it doing to your cellular structure?
It connects right into all that talk about space brain, the potential neurocognitive issues.
It really does. And it highlights the crucial need for effective magnetic or material shielding for these long-duration missions. The experience of seeing the flashes is like the canary in the coal mine, warning us that the deep space environment is just fundamentally hostile to our biology.
That's a powerful way to think about it. Okay, so we've covered flashes of light you see when you close your eyes. Now, let's switch gears from what the body perceives internally to what our highly trained ears report externally.
Ah, yes, the infamous sound that shouldn't exist.
The silent knocking.
The account originated with Chinese astronaut Yang Liwei way back in 2003. He described hearing this really distinct sound, like metallic knocking, coming from the structure of a spaceship.
And instantly everyone's first reaction is, impossible. Outer space is a perfect vacuum. Sound needs a medium to travel. It's like the first thing you learn in physics class.
But here's where the science gets a little more complicated. While sound can't travel externally, the spaceship does contain an artificial atmosphere, right? So sound can travel inside the cabin through the air.
And through the hull itself, I guess.
And through the physical structure, yeah. But Liwei emphasized that the sound wasn't just random creaking. He said it was distinct and, crucially, it seemed to come from the outside.
Which is the part that makes your hair stand up.
And then came the shocking confirmation. Our reading notes that almost 80% of NASA and European Space Agency astronauts supported his claim. They reported similar, unexplained sounds.
So it wasn't some isolated hallucination of a rookie astronaut.
No, it was a widely shared phenomenon among veterans across different countries, different space agencies, different vehicles.
So what are the theories? What could it be?
They're pretty varied, but none of them are definitive. Could it be slight pressure differentials as the ship maneuvers or vents gas? Maybe?
What about the temperature changes? Going from sunlight to shadow must be extreme.
That's a big one. The hull, expanding and contracting rapidly due to that thermal shock, could cause a sharp internal ping. Even micrometeoroid debris, tiny specks of dust hitting the hull and vibrating the structure, could make a sharp noise.
But if it were just thermal expansion, wouldn't they know that? I mean, they designed these spacecraft to account for that very thing.
You'd think so. The fact that the mystery remains open-ended 2 decades later suggests that whatever the cause is, whether it's a structural shift or something else, it has a unique signature that even our most skilled engineers haven't universally pinned down.
It just adds a whole new level of psychological stress to an already extreme environment.
Exactly. Imagine you're up there, totally isolated, and you know that some sound source is consistently generating a noise that your entire highly resourced agency cannot definitively identify.
I gotta know what you think about this. If you had to put money on it, is the sound just structural stress or something truly anomalous and unexplainable? We'd love to know your take on this comment below.
Yeah, let us know.
Okay, so we've established that astronauts' bodies are freaking out internally, their ships are producing mysterious, unexplained knocks, and that's just the stuff happening inside the tin can.
Right.
Now let's talk about the visual sightings, the things they actually saw outside the window. We're talking spheres, silent explosions, and alleged time travelers.
This section relies entirely on witness testimony, and as we said at the top, the credibility of these witnesses is just unparalleled
Selected from hundreds of thousands of applicants, rigorously trained.
and possess exceptional observational skills. Yet, they operate under these strict security protocols and the heavy pressure of knowing that reporting something truly anomalous could literally end their career.
Let's start with the American side of things and the voice of pure conviction, Gordon Cooper.
What a character. He maintained his belief in extraterrestrial visits his entire life. He even testified to the UN about it.
He testified to the UN.
Yeah, said that these vehicles and crews visit Earth from other planets. And crucially, he pointed out that most astronauts, even the ones who saw things, were extremely reluctant to discuss UFOs publicly because of that professional risk.
That reluctance brings us straight to the infamous Apollo 11 debate.
Buzz Aldrin.
Buzz Aldrin, yeah. He's addressed the long-standing rumors about what he saw on the way to the moon. The standard skeptical explanation from Houston was that it was just the sun's reflection off a panel from the module.
Or small metal objects separating after they undocked. That's the official line a lot of skeptics still hold on to.
But the reality, according to our reading, is far more complex. Aldrin and his companion reportedly photographed two distinct saucers flying in pairs the day before they landed on the moon.
And if you see objects flying in formation, that immediately jumps past the space trash explanation.
Exactly. One theory is that they were being escorted or monitored by vehicles that were just intent on observing the human mission.
And this wasn't an isolated event either. Frank Borman and James Lovell, they were on Gemini 7, and they saw two champignon-like UFOs.
Champignon-like mushrooms.
Exactly, like mushrooms, at a distance of about 800 meters,
Yeah.
and they took very clear pictures. Then Lovell and Aldrin photographed more on Gemini 12.
And then you've got Thomas Stafford and John Young, who allegedly filmed UFOs accompanying them during the Apollo 10 lunar orbit mission. The sheer volume of this high-level testimony suggests that something non-standard is regularly being seen up there.
Yeah, and then you have figures like Edgar Mitchell, the Apollo 14 astronaut. He didn't actually see a UFO during his mission, but later became this powerful advocate for contact.
Right. He said he had personal experiences later and developed a deep conviction about extraterrestrial presence. It seems like space itself, even if it doesn't provide the visual, it often just transforms the perspective of those who go there.
Absolutely. Now, let's pivot hard to the Russian and Soviet accounts,
Okay.
because they are often far more dramatic. We're talking dazzling colors and,
Yeah.
well, cinematic events. Get ready for the silent explosions of the cosmos.
This is where it gets really, really interesting. In 1990, aboard the Mir station, cosmonaut Gennady Strekalov saw a mysterious sphere.
And his description is amazing.
It is. He described it as resembling an elegant, colorful glass Christmas tree toy.
The crew commander, Gennady Manikov, he saw it too. He corroborated the sighting. They estimated this sparkling silver ball was huge, like 20 to 30 kilometers above Earth.
And it was just gone.
Vanished after only 6 or 7 seconds. A transient, yet deeply specific visual. But the golden ball incident is even wilder.
Okay, lay on me.
An elliptical object was seen flying alongside the station, and it was rotating as if it was rolling through space.
All right.
And then without any sound or vibration, the astronaut was blinded by a flash of bright yellow light. He described it as a silent explosion, and the object immediately transformed into a sparkling golden ball.
Wait. It exploded silently and transformed into gold, and then what?
Then a second, identical golden ball appeared, seemingly born from another soundless flash.
No way.
This was then followed by a cloud of smoke that also coalesced into a third sphere. All three of these dazzling phenomena just disappeared when the station entered the Earth's shadow, the Terminator.
The detail in that account, the rotation, the silent explosion, the glittering transformation, that is completely inconsistent with any known space debris or natural optical effects.
Not even close. It sounds less like science and more like I don't know, an astrological manifestation or something.
It really does. And our reading also had the account involving cosmonaut Kuvalenok aboard Salyut 6.
It's a tennis ball.
The tennis ball, yeah.
Yeah.
He reported a flying object that looked like a tennis ball, shining like a star, located below the station. But the rumors linked to Kovalenok get absolutely wilder.
They do. There are accounts suggesting that the Salyut 6 was accompanied by a UFO for 2 full days,
2 days.
with unknown creatures reportedly appearing and approaching the station. If you go from a sparkling tennis ball to unknown creatures approaching, you know you've left the reservation of rational explanation and entered some really high-stakes territory.
This brings us to a really crucial cautionary tale, I think, about the human factor and the political environment that filtered these stories.
You're talking about Lazarev and Makarov.
Yeah. After their launch vehicle failed, it forced this emergency high-G landing in the desolate Altai Mountains. And during that crisis, they experienced multiple auditory phenomena.
They heard strange sounds twice during the emergency, described as like an inept computer trying to imitate human speech.
I can't even imagine. You're fighting for your life, your capsule is plummeting back to Earth, and some electronic ghost tries to talk to you through the comms.
And then, after they landed safely, they saw the visual anomaly. They'd lit a fire to signal for rescue.
And hovering directly above their landing site, visible for half a minute, was a purple luminous object.
And here's the punchline. The dark reality of that era. Lazarev revealed later they stayed silent about the UFOs because, in those days, reporting supernatural phenomena could lead to immediate removal from flight status.
Reporting a sighting was a career-ending move.
Absolutely. That institutional fear is probably the most potent filter on anomalous data we have. It explains why we might be missing decades of credible sightings.
And just to seal the deal on the mystery, the tape recording of their communications with Control Center, the one that had those strange, attempted voices.
It later disappeared under unclear circumstances. The evidence of the digital ghosts just went missing.
Wow.
Now, before we move on, we have to acknowledge the potential for psychological confusion here.
For sure.
Space is isolating, it's confined, and it leads to sensory deprivation. Our research confirms that in Earth-based isolation tests, subjects saw floating TVs and reported their dashboards melting and dripping. Cognitive dysfunction is a real threat.
So while we are fascinated by the golden balls and the purple tennis balls, we have to hold that possibility that the human brain, under immense and unique stress, can generate its own reality.
Absolutely. However, as our reading noted, veteran cosmonauts like Pavel Popovich directly denied that they experience hallucinations. They emphasize their rigorous health standards and constant monitoring. And when multiple highly trained witnesses corroborate specific details, like the knocking sound or the shape of the golden ball, it makes the simple hallucination dismissal feel far too simplistic.
That is a wild lineup of stories. Whether it's a golden ball or a purple glowing tennis ball, it makes you wonder what else is flying around up there.
Yeah.
Hey, what do you think? Have you heard of these sightings before? We'd love to know your take on which of these space stories is the craziest. You know the drill. Comment below. Also, since we are a small channel, if you're listening to this on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. We'd love to have you on board for more deep dives.
We really would.
Okay, we've had a wild ride in orbit, but now let's turn our attention to the phenomena captured on distant worlds, not by human eyes, but by our highly resilient robotic surrogates.
Welcome to the Planetary Scale Hall of Illusions.
We are diving headfirst into pareidolia.
The innate human compulsion to see familiar, meaningful shapes in arbitrary arrangement, like seeing animals in clouds or...
The face of Jesus and a piece of toast, yeah. On Mars, this tendency has generated entire mythologies.
And nowhere is that more true than with the famous face on Mars in the Cydonia region.
The classic.
The discovery happened in 1976. The American Viking 1 orbiter snapped an image of this massive geological formation that just instantly appeared to resemble a human head.
But NASA scientists, they immediately and correctly identified it as an optical illusion.
Right away. They knew it was caused by the very low angle of the sun's illumination, which cast these extreme shadows. And those shadows, combined with the formation's natural surface contours, gave the impression of eyes, a nose, and a mouth.
But the myth just took on a life of its own. Despite the scientific explanation, that image sparked decades of fervent speculation about artificial structures, potential pyramids.
A whole disintegrated city built by an ancient Martian civilization.
It wasn't until additional high-resolution data came back from the Mars Global Surveyor in '98 and 2001, and then ESA's Mars Express in 2006, that the hype finally calmed down.
Yeah, these new images showed it clearly. You view it from a different angle with better resolution, and it was just a heavily eroded natural rock formation. A massive mountain of dirt and stone, nothing more.
But the human compulsion to find patterns never stops. We continue to see modern Martian mimetoliths.
Mimetoliths, yeah. That's specifically rock formations that look like objects or figures.
Yeah.
And our reading gave us the perfect recent example from an enthusiast blog.
Oh, the infamous Titanic pose sighting.
This one was great.
Yeah.
The enthusiast claimed to have spotted an actual person lying down watching the NASA Mars rover from a safe distance away in a high-res image.
The alleged detail was just amazing. They claimed it was about a foot tall, with a pinkish upper chest or face, reddish hair, wearing a dark suit.
And a gray object over one shoulder. A backpack, maybe? And they even compared the pose to the romantic scene from the movie Titanic.
Kate Winslet being drawn.
Kate Winslet being drawn. On Mars.
You have to admire the human brain's ability to take three oddly shaped shadows and turn them into a tiny, heartbroken Victorian alien watching a rover. That is just peak pareidolia.
As our research noted, while it's impossible to be 100% sure it's not a 1-foot-tall Martian in a dark suit doing the Titanic pose.
It's almost certainly just a rock.
It's almost certainly a randomly arranged rock cluster. Our brains are simply wired to see humans, especially in conditions of novelty and low resolution.
And we can't forget the moon's brief foray into generating this kind of hype. The lunar mystery hut.
Oh yeah. China's lunar rover spotted this small rectangular object on the far side of the moon, and the initial images led to worldwide speculation. Was it a monolith? An alien base? An abandoned tiny rental property?
The global community held its breath for the close-up.
And the reveal was just magnificent in its mundanity. After days of slow, agonizing travel, the close-up images confirmed it was just an uninteresting chunk of rock.
They named it Jade Rabbit because, well, I guess it looks slightly more like a rabbit than a house.
Though, again, it was mostly just a rock. The Mystery Hut saga is a perfect example of how our imagination, fed by low-res data and high hope, instantly defaults to seeing meaning.
Carl Sagan was so right. Imagination will often carry us to worlds that never were.
But without it, we go nowhere.
Okay, so we've established that our probes are prone to sending back visual jokes, but this doesn't mean the moon is just a dead, static gray golf ball.
Not at all. Our reading confirms that our celestial neighbor exhibits genuinely strange, short-lived, unexplained phenomena that scientists are actively studying.
We're moving into transient lunar phenomena, or TLPs.
These are short-lived glows, flashes, or color changes observed on the lunar surface. They're highly variable. They can range from instantaneous flashes, which are likely just small impacts, to events lasting for several hours.
That's the longest one.
The longest recorded TLP event lasted a staggering 18,000 seconds. That's 5 hours.
5 hours of something weird glowing on the moon. And what's compelling is that these aren't random. TLP reports are highly concentrated in specific regions, which suggests a geological cause, not an external one.
Precisely. The most frequently reported site, by far, is the crater Aristarchus, followed by Plato and Grimaldi. By finding this geographical correlation, scientists have been able to link the robust TLP reports to two distinct, verifiable geological activities.
This is where the mystery meets the hard science.
It is. The first mechanism is outgassing. TLPs correlate geographically with episodic releases of radon-222 gas.
That's fascinating. Radon-222 gas releases were actually detected by the Apollo and Lunar Prospector instruments.
Yeah, this gas is trapped beneath the surface, and it escapes when the lunar crust flexes. The gas leaks out primarily because of the sagging of the mare basalt or through impact fractures, especially around recent major craters like Kepler and Tycho, where the surface is really stressed.
So how does a gas release become a light phenomenon?
The prevailing theory is that as the gas escapes the porous rock, it interacts with solar radiation, or the lunar environment, causing it to ionize and glow briefly.
So it's a transient visual anomaly that looks like a flash or a reddish cloud.
It's essentially a temporary natural neon sign created by subsurface stresses.
And the second mechanism links these phenomena directly to deep seismic activity.
Moonquakes.
Moonquakes.
There's a statistical correlation between TLP sites and the distribution of deep moonquakes. The moon experiences quakes, often hundreds of kilometers beneath the surface. When the internal stress from these quakes shifts the crust, it stresses the basalt, potentially opening pathways for those trapped volatile gases like radon-222 to escape.
And that triggers the TLP. So the moon is actively flexing, stressing, and farting out radioactive gas that glows in the dark. That is way more interesting than a static rock.
It definitely is. And finally, you have the observation of dust eruptions. Astronauts on Apollo 10, 17, and others, as well as the Lunokhod II rover, they all observed this tenuous dust layer elevated right at the shadow terminator.
Why would the dust just float?
This is possibly linked to the solar wind and electrical charging. The dust particles become electrically charged, particularly near the edge of the sunlit side, and this charge can be strong enough to actually levitate them off the surface temporarily.
So the moon isn't just releasing gas, it's also generating enough static electricity to float its own surface material.
The moon is alive, in a way.
Okay, we've covered everything human eyes have seen or thought they've seen. Now we jump to the absolute bleeding edge, how AI is attempting to bypass human bias and search for the next great anomaly.
Or perhaps a crashed alien probe on the moon.
The primary hurdle isn't technological capability, it's just the scale. Scientists are dealing with petabytes of lunar surface imagery.
To put that in perspective, you're talking about the data equivalent of 1,000 laptops, all just filled with moon pictures.
It's an impossible task for a human team. Our research noted that analyzing the surface imagery by hand would mean inspecting around 10 billion patches of data. If a person took just 1 second per patch, you're looking at hundreds of years of dedicated work.
It's physically infeasible. So we train the robots. They use a technique called anomaly detection, and the methodology behind it is incredibly clever.
Okay, break this down for me. Use an analogy. How does a machine determine if something is weird on a surface that's just covered in craters?
Okay, imagine you have a detective, that's the AI, who is only interested in finding things that are not furniture.
Right.
You train this detective by showing it thousands and thousands of images of furniture, chairs, tables, lamps. It learns how to reconstruct those images perfectly in its internal model. When the AI successfully reconstructs an image, a simple crater, a typical rock, that gets a very low anomaly score, say a 5. That's normal.
Got it. So how does it spot the actual weird stuff?
If you suddenly show the detective an image of something entirely outside its training, say a rubber duck or, maybe a crashed spaceship, the AI struggles catastrophically to reconstruct it using its furniture rules.
Ah.
That poor performance, that struggle to comprehend the image, that's the flag. It kicks at a high anomaly value, maybe 150. The system's failure to normalize the image becomes our success signal.
That is brilliant. The machine's inability to recognize something as typical crater topography is exactly what tells us we should look closer.
And they validated this system by feeding it images of known human technosignatures, the Apollo landing sites.
Our own stuff.
Our own stuff. And the images containing the actual landing equipment instantly received high anomaly numbers, placing them far outside the average data. It successfully detected non-natural objects.
So the ultimate goal here is much bigger than just cataloging our old tin cans.
Absolutely. The researchers are openly looking to find some crashed alien probes or the entrance to some ancient bases. And the beauty is that this algorithm is data agnostic. Once it's perfected, it can be scaled to the entire lunar surface and then applied to Martian imagery, searching for any feature that doesn't fit the normal geological mold.
And this brings up that beautiful concept of complementary bias. We talked about how humans are prone to pareidolia, seeing faces where there are none. The AI isn't fooled by faces.
But it has its own weaknesses. It can be fooled by noise or subtle data imperfections that might trick its reconstruction model.
This is the Swiss cheese analogy.
Exactly. We use both human scrutiny and machine scrutiny. The AI's biases are different from ours. Where the human might see a tiny, heartbroken Martian in a rock, the AI might flag a perfect, unusual geometrical structure that a human would have overlooked in the billions of patches.
By using both, we cover each other's blind spots.
And hopefully accelerate discovery, leading us to a genuine, significant anomaly.
All right, buckle up. Because we have covered the real and the potential, and now we are shifting into the most complex, strange, and narratively dense claim in our reading.
This is a claim that forces us to question the very identity of any visitors we might encounter.
We need to set the scene by revisiting astronaut Edgar Mitchell, his transition from an elite space explorer to a firm believer in contact. It gives a certain credence to the information he was apparently privy to.
Which included research on a group called the Apunians.
The Apunians. They're described as tall, athletic beings in metallic suits. They supposedly originated from a world called Apu First, but their current base of operations is allegedly Alpha Centauri, which they call Apu Second.
And they reportedly utilize bases hidden deep inside the mountains of South America, specifically citing the Huascarán in the Peruvian Andes.
But the identity shocker, the core of this entire section, is their origin story. It's known as the Ark Project. The Apunians claim their ancestors were not just aliens.
But humans from Earth's future.
This sounds absolutely cinematic. So tell us about the crisis that forced future humanity to launch the Ark.
It's a scenario that feels a little too familiar. Future Earth reached this critical juncture because of extreme overpopulation, devastating resource exploitation, environmental collapse, and global ideological conflict.
So, an existential crisis.
Totally. The human race, facing extinction or a certain collapse, formed this desperate final alliance.
And they threw a Hail Mary pass into the cosmos.
Precisely. They launched the Ark, a number of advanced crewed vehicles carrying hundreds of young, genetically selected adolescent astronauts toward Alpha Centauri, which they thought had habitable worlds. These were the best and brightest, bred and trained for the specific purpose of saving the human genome.
And their mission relied on some revolutionary physics centered around a new energy source called Minius.
Which was reportedly detected using the Hadron Collider. This Minius energy is presented as a fifth force, a fundamental physics breakthrough that allows for incredible energy production and, crucially, space-time manipulation.
So the ships used this energy, but something went wrong.
Terribly wrong. Instead of simply shortening the voyage time, the intense energy field caused a catastrophic space-time distortion.
Wait, so instead of arriving in Alpha Centauri in the future, they were slingshotted into that star system's past.
That's the claim. They arrived in the past of Apua II, where they were rescued by an existing, evolved humanoid civilization, the ancestors of beings like Antarel. Over centuries, these stranded, technologically advanced humans interbred with the native population.
Creating a stable hybrid race.
The Apunians, beings like Evika.
My mind is officially bent. So the Apunians are therefore coming back, not as invading aliens, but as genetically advanced descendants of the very humans they are observing. And what is their message?
The core message is urgent. They are returning to warn their ancestors, that's us, not to repeat the fatal patterns that led to the desperate launch of the Ark in the first place. Specifically, they warn against diving blindly into the secrets of matter like the Minius energy without understanding the order that sustains the cosmos.
Hold on, let me put my skeptical hat on for a second. If there are advanced, benevolent descendants coming back to warn us about imminent planetary collapse caused by overpopulation and war, why are they spending their time sabotaging physics experiments?
That's a great question.
Why not just offer a blueprint for sustainable fusion or, I don't know, a peaceful resolution to war? Sabotage seems like a weirdly passive-aggressive form of intervention.
It does, but the research provides a specific answer related to that Minius energy. They claim they infiltrated CERN, the facility operating the Hadron Collider, specifically to observe how close we were to discovering Minius ourselves.
The implication being that if we discover the Minius energy now in our current chaotic ideological state, we are guaranteed to repeat the disastrous Ark launch scenario which they experienced firsthand.
Exactly. They claim they were prepared to actively sabotage key experiments, like the Awake project, which was concealed under an official title, to delay our discovery of Minius energy and essentially buy us more time to mature socially and politically.
So every time the Hadron Collider temporarily shuts down, maybe it's not just a wiring fault.
Maybe.
Maybe it's our highly advanced time-traveling grandchildren subtly delaying our own self-destruction. That changes the stakes of particle physics dramatically.
And finally, the Apunians allegedly provide physical confirmations to their contactees. One stunning example was at Monte Perdido in the Spanish Pyrenees, a location they claim is an interdimensional vortex or one of their operational bases.
And what did the observers actually see?
A group experienced a very bright object, described as a ball of bluish-white light, which positioned itself unexpectedly right above them and just illuminated the ground and the observers with this powerful, intense light.
So a real physical phenomenon.
Yeah, and it served to confirm the location as a center of their activity, tying the wildest claims of time-traveling human hybrids back to genuine, anomalous sightings on Earth.
Wow. We have had quite the journey today.
We really have. We started with the terrifying reality of cosmic rays causing flashes of light inside the human eye. A real, verifiable physical interaction with deep space. We moved through the shared mystery of the silent metallic knocking that nearly 80% of astronauts have heard.
And marveled at the silent explosions and glittering golden spheres reported by cosmonauts.
Then we looked at the natural inclination of our minds, pareidolia, which fooled us into seeing faces on Mars and tiny people doing the Titanic pose.
And we discovered that the moon is surprisingly active, gassing and electrically charging itself thanks to moonquakes and cracking basalts.
And we wrapped up with the story of the Apunians, this complex, multi-layered claim that some of the visitors we encounter might be our own genetically selected, time-displaced descendants using physics we barely understand to delay our own collapse.
The common thread, as we've seen, is that space exploration pushes both human perception and our current understanding of physics to its absolute breaking point. Whether the explanation is verifiable physics, psychological stress, or conscious extraterrestrials, space just demands that we constantly adjust our definition of what is real and what is possible.
That leads us back to our final thought, linking the human need to the digital hunt. We talked about Carl Sagan's sentiment that imagination carries us to worlds that never were.
But without it, we go nowhere.
Right, and if you think about the pareidolia, the human compulsion to see faces, figures, and companions in the randomness of space, maybe that instinct isn't just a trick of the eye.
But a deep, driving psychological need to find meaning and companionship in the immense, overwhelming loneliness of the cosmos.
And that need to find company, that drive, is what pushes us to build the rovers and train the AI algorithms. The AI is now scanning billions of patches of the lunar surface, free of our human bias. So the final provocative question is this.
If our drive for companionship is what truly fuels this search, what genuine significant anomaly will the AI find when it finally finishes scanning the whole moon?
And will we even recognize it when we see it?
You know, since we are a small channel and would absolutely love to have you on board for more deep dives into the cosmic weirdness, if you're listening to this on YouTube, please hit that like and subscribe button. We rely on people who love these oddities as much as we do.
Thanks for diving deep with us.